around the age of 5 or 6 or 7, to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you.
It's so-called Black History Month, so it's only right that we get into the history of the so-called black race. And yes, I'm saying so-called because there's plenty of artifacts, plenty of European voyagers and settlers that prove that the so-called black race has been in America. If you support the content, just leave a like and subscribe. Virginia Indians may be classified with Negro race. Chief E.P. of Culver, New Kent County, has written a letter to various white friends scattered over the Commonwealth, asking them to use their best efforts to prevent Dr. Plecker from persuading the federal authorities to classify the Chickahominies as Negroes. The Chickahominy chieftain became alarmed following publication on Friday of Dr. Plecker's letter to W.M. Stewart, director of the United States Census Bureau, asking Mr. Stewart to bear in mind when he takes the next census that Virginia classes anyone with a trace of Negro blood as a Negro. And if you looked into this at all, you would know that just because you had Negro blood, that didn't make you Negro. You had to appear to be Negro. That was called prima facie. And if you don't know who Walter Plecker is, he's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, all of us so-called Black Americans identify as an African American or Negro. Since the federal government defines anyone with a trace of Indian blood as an indication to what? It is not known if these two definitions will prevail when the census takers begin their work in Virginia. Dr. Plecker claims that practically all of the Indians in the state have Negro blood in their veins, and that they should, for that reason, be classified as Negroes. So what do you think happened with them? Do you think they kept their heritage and was labeled Indian or their tribe on the census? Or do you believe that they were labeled Negroes just as Dr. Plecker wished? If you ever find this on a modern blog or some website that supposedly posts information, they may call this an African American business. But there's nothing to suggest that these people are African at all. They only saying it because of their phenotype. We can all obviously tell that's a so-called black woman. At the bottom it says, leave the hair soft and silky. Can be used with hot iron for straightening, meaning they straightened their hair at this time. It wasn't always naturally straight. Even the style that she has in her head in that image, that was a style that we used to straighten our hair. If your hair is long enough, you can try it yourself. Once you take your hair out of that braid, your hair will be straight and wavy. Now we're looking at this article from the Nashville Globe, dated October 5th of 1917. Here we have another woman, let's just say, because we don't know if it's a group of people or not, that's creating hair products that today will be labeled Negro or African American. At the top it says Black Hawk Indian hair grower and scalp cleanser. Not black hair grower and scalp cleanser, but Black Hawk Indian. Here we have another old newspaper article. It says wandering Indian forced to rest at hospital. Indian World War scout is patient in city hospital. But none of that's important. Just look at him. Does he at all look mongoloid or like today's Native Americans? Now we in an inquiry into the distinctive characteristics of the Aboriginal race of America by Samuel George Morton, MD. And this guy played a major role in our history as well. It cannot be questioned that physical diversities do occur, equally singular and inexplicable, as seen in different shades of color, varying from a fair tint to a complexion almost black, and this too under circumstances in which climate can have little or no influence. That end is important. Meaning, just because someone lives in a hot area, that don't mean they'll be automatically darker than someone who lives in a cooler area. So, also in reference to stature, the differences are remarkable in entire tribes, which, moreover, are geographically proximate to each other. These facts, however, are mere exceptions to a general rule and do not alter the peculiar physiognomy of the Indian, which is as undeviatingly characteristic as that of the Negro. For whether we see him in the athletic cherub or the stunted Chima, in the dark Californian or the fair Baroa, he is an Indian still and cannot be mistaken for being of any other race. Meaning, no matter what color, no matter where you see them at in America, the Indian is still an Indian, and we about to get into the dark Californians. Researches, philosophical and antiquarian, concerning the Aboriginal history of America. The color of the Indians of the California mission seen by La Perouse very nearly approaches that of the Negroes whose hair is not woolly, and in another place, the color of these Indians, which is that of the Negroes. So he just told you two things right there. There are so-called Negroes out there without woolly hair, and that these Indians are the color of those Negroes. Langsdorff, who visited San Francisco on the coast of California, confirms the observations of La Perouse, for he says the Indians there are of a very dark complexion, approaching to black. They have very large projecting lips and broad, flat Negro-like noses. Indeed, many of their features, as well as their physiognomy and almost their color, bear a strong resemblance to the Negroes. Their hair, however, is long and straight. And I just showed you previously that we had hair products and also hair care such as like braids and stuff like that to straighten our hair out. And I've shown plenty of sources that said the only difference between the so-called Negro and the American Indian is the hair, being that the American Indian has straighter hair. Here we have a whitewashed version of a map of America. Just take a good look at it. Here we have that same map, but in its original format. If the color meant nothing, why would they change it?
That to me is a Negroid face that has all the features you associate with a Negroid face. The proportions of the face, it doesn't say anything about it being a Mongoloid.
Was this then the face of a first American?